Hi everyone, Alita here from Science Stars, and I'm looking forward to doing some science with you today. And because we are celebrating Earth Day this week, I thought that we would do something that had to do with helping our planet. So today's activity is going to be making paper, and we're going to be making paper using recycled paper. So does everyone know what recycling is? Recycling is when you reuse something and make it into something new. So for example, you can take newspaper and make it into new paper instead of having to cut down trees, because paper comes from trees and we need our trees. Trees are important for a few reasons. So one reason is because trees are homes to all sorts of animals. Can you think of any animals that live in trees? If you said birds, you're absolutely right. And there are many more. There are squirrels, some monkeys, koala bears, and insects. All sorts of animals live in trees. So if we didn't have trees, these animals would have nowhere to live. Another reason trees are important is because they provide oxygen for us to breathe. We wouldn't be able to live without oxygen. And trees also clean our air. So it's very important that we protect our trees. To make paper, you're going to need old newspaper, a deep tray, a baking tray will do, a cloth, a metal clothes hanger, an old leg of tights, a blender or a handheld blender, and optional items are food coloring, cut up pieces of tissue paper, or flower petals. I have used cherry blossoms as I have plenty in my garden these days. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our newspaper. So grab a few sheets. And then we're just going to start to tear it into strips, because what we want to do is we want to tear it into teeny tiny pieces. So once you have a few strips, you can start to tear them into smaller pieces. The smaller the better, because we're going to try to break it down into the fine fibers that are going to make it into the pulp. So it's basically like starting again. When trees get cut down and are processed in factories, they get mashed down to something called a pulp, which is really just the small little fibers. So we're going to try to get it as small as we can. Once you have a good amount, then you're going to add water to it. And then just let it soak. You're going to want to let it soak for about 30 minutes, and then we'll blend it up. You're going to want to add enough water to fill it up to near the brim of the tray that you're using. So I need to add some more water. Our next step is to make a sieve, and we're going to make it using an old leg from a pair of tights and a metal clothes hanger, one that you can bend. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open one end of the tight, and we're going to place it over the hanger like so. Okay, so might be a bit tricky, but it should stretch. Okay, we'll get it over that side there. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll bend it into the shape of a square or a diamond, just to make room for the paper. Okay. And then we can bend this part in just to close it in so it doesn't get hooked on anything, like so. Okay, so that is my makeshift sieve. And this is great because it's using all recycled materials. Okay, so we've got our sieve ready. Once you've let your paper sit for about a half an hour, it's time to blend it. So if you have a blender or a handheld blender, I'm going to do it with a handheld blender, but you can pop it into a blender. Make sure you have plenty of water in it though, and then just blend away until you've got a nice fine pulp. So we'll see how this looks. Whoopsie daisy. So now you can see that we've got a gray, pulpy looking mixture here. There are still some pieces of the newspaper that you can see, but I think it's nice when we make our paper that you can see bits of letters and photos, pictures, because it's nice to see what the paper used to be. So the next thing we're going to do, this is where the optional bits come in. If you have flower petals or bits of tissue paper, you can add them in at this point once you're finished the blending step. And then if you'd like maybe little bits of tissue paper, you can be as creative as you'd like. There's other things people might add, like lavender or things that make lovely smells. And then as well, you can add some food coloring if you'd like, just to add some color. Because if you're using newspaper, it will be a gray color. Okay, so just give that a wee mix. Okay, so now we're ready to put our sieve in and see what we get. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to dunk it right underneath and allow for the pulp to settle over top of the sieve. And then you want to carefully remove it from the water, taking care not to tilt it so that the pulp doesn't come off of it. So I've dunked it there, and as you can see here, there's some missing. So I'm going to dunk it in again. So keep trying if you're not satisfied with the pulp that you're getting on your sieve. Let's see here. Another idea that you can do if you're struggling like I am to fill up the sieve is you can dip a little cup and pour it on top, and keep doing that until you fill up all the spaces on your sieve. So now, hopefully you have something that looks a little bit like this, okay? And what we're going to do now is we're going to place it onto our towel. You may need to use more than one towel or different parts of a towel as it will get quite wet, and you want to try to absorb it. You want to try to absorb as much of the liquid into the sponge as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to start patting the sponge onto the pulp very, very carefully, slowly. If you do it too quickly, it might lift up some of the pulp. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So what we're doing here is we're pushing the moisture both into the sponge and into the towel at the same time. So we're going to try to dry it out as best we can. So as you can see there, I've not been very careful, and it's just peeled on me. So I'm going to take it a little bit slower. Make sure you do every area. I added a few sprinkles of tissue paper and petals on top as I was removing it from the mixture, just so that I had a bit more color and a few more petals. So what we want to do next is try to remove it from the edge where the hanger is. So just use your fingers to peel it away, as that's going to help remove the paper from the sieve. So go all the way around, removing the pulp from the edge by the hanger. Once you've taken out as much of the water that you can with a sponge, this is where it's time to try to remove it from the sieve. Now it has to be quite dry. So then what we'll do is we'll get some newspaper. So grab some of the newspaper that you didn't tear up. Just put that like so. Okay, and then flip over very carefully your pulp onto the page, and you'll know if it's dry enough if it starts to come off the sieve automatically, which mine is doing in most spots. If not, just help it out by giving it a wee pat. The newspaper will help absorb some more of the water, and then have a little peek underneath. And if you can see some bits that are still sticking, just use your finger to gently peel it off the sieve. And then pull up carefully to see what you have. Very good. So as you can see, I've got my paper there. However, the part that I had put more tissue paper onto and the flower petals, it's on the other side. So what I want to do is I want to flip it over. So I'm just going to open my newspaper like so, and I'm going to do a quick flipperoo, as I like to call it, and gently peel the newspaper away. If some does break off, don't worry too much, because you can just set it back in place and pat it down. And once it dries, it will all hold together. Okay, so have a look. So when that dries, it's going to be nice and strong. Right now it's very delicate and can tear easily. But once it dries, it's going to be nice and tough, like a normal sheet of paper. And there you have it. There is your recycled paper made into new paper. You can use felt tip markers to color on it once it's dry. You may want to leave it about a day or so for it to fully dry, and enjoy. So that's our activity for today. We talked about recycling and why recycling is important. We also talked about why trees are important and why they shouldn't be cut down. And then we have made new paper from recycled paper. So well done, boys and girls. A special hello to the children from the Children's Heartbeat Trust. I hope you all are going to make lovely new paper from recycled paper. So please send us your photos for us to see them. We would love to have a look and see what other types of creative things you added to make your new paper. If you want more details about recycling paper or more instructions for it, you can go to the Twinkl website, twinkl.co.uk, where they have free subscription at the moment. To dispose of the leftover pulp that you no longer need, you can drain it with a sieve into the sink, and then with the leftover you can just put it into your compost. So bye for now.